welcome to our Lunch and Learn today. I'm so excited to get started. We've got an incredible topic we're here to talk about. I think it's a really critical topic to talk about. I think it's a topic that we don't talk about enough, but we know how powerful it is, and it is the power of being happy. That sounds crazy, but there is so much power in being happy. We've got a great guest with us today. His name is Edwin Edebiri. Edwin is the founder of the Happy Neighborhood Project and the I Am Happy Project. His purpose is to inspire and encourage others to fulfill potential and have a positive impact on the world through service and love. He is a pioneer of happiness as a skill. Edwin, thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Edwin, why is it so important to be happy? Like, why does that even, I mean, I think like when I think to myself, like, when I'm happier, I'm more joyous, things go well, I have a more just positive outlook on life and things. But yeah, why is it important for people to be happy?
Well, His Holiness Dalai Lama put it very simple. He said the purpose of life is to be happy. Now, that might sound like a really, simple cliche, but when you start to talk to individuals and you start to dig in a little bit deeper, and you find out the bottom line is the only reason they do what they do is it makes them happy, okay? And I know people don't accept that because then it sounds selfish, it sounds self-centered. But the truth is this, I come across some people, they say, Edwin, you know what? It's not about my happiness, it's about my family. And then I say, okay, when your family is happy, what does that mean to you? They say, make me happy. I say, we are back to you again, And they say, well, it's not about me, it's about my community. I say, that's great. When your community is happy, what does that mean to you? It makes me happy. Well, we're back to you again, And it's, so no matter what people say is the reason they're doing what they do, there is an underlining that it comes back to us being happy. And there is nothing selfish about that. The bottom line is that the happier we are, the more effective we are, the more productive we are, the more resilient we are, the more we can truly connect with other people and appreciate other people. It's in direct correlation to how we appreciate ourselves and how happy we are. One of the things that I always tell people, there is a reservoir. And your level of happiness is how much happiness you can give to other people. You can't give what you don't have. So when you focus on your own happiness and it's overflowing, that just means you can supply the rest of the world with happiness. So happiness for me is the fundamental. And anything that's built on a foundation of happiness almost always is successful.
That's really fascinating. It gets to this deep philosophical question. And I love to dive deeper. You said, being happy isn't selfish, but I would care to argue it's the counter. You are selfish because and by the way, it's okay to be selfish. It's okay to for people that think I volunteer or I give time back or I help with other people to do these things. We do these actions. We take the time to do whatever we do in our days because we think it is the best action for us in that given moment in time to achieve the greatest outcome for ourselves. But I would imagine the reason why a lot of people are not happy is because they don't take an intentional time to focus on what actually is making them happy. They're not taking time to pause, take an inventory of, am I happy? Are these actions still fulfilling me? And if not, how can I make a transition to pursue actions that will make me happy? Am I onto something there, Edwin?
Yes, and going back very briefly to the idea of selfishness, yes, I agree with you. It's good to be selfish. I think the difference is being self-centered, So that's really the difference. Being selfish is good in that sense because then you can focus on your own happiness. Now, as far as intentional, totally, in short, the whole of my movement, and maybe we can get to talk about that in a little bit, is that if you are not intentional about happiness, then you are just wishy-washy, okay? You're just all over the place. In short, the biggest thing that I get from my study, when I interview over 1,000 individuals on the subject of happiness, one of the biggest takeaway was a lot of people just treat happiness as an emotion. And when you treat happiness as a pure emotion, now don't get me wrong, I know psychologists will kind of almost, scream at me. I get it. Happiness is an emotion like a lot of other emotions. I get that part. But when you focus on happiness as pure emotion, then you go through emotional roller coaster. Okay, you are happy when everything is good. You are not happy when things are not good. It's almost like you've relinquished control over your own happiness to outside sources. And that's just not good. That's why I want to change the narrative. I want to move it from happiness as an emotion to happiness as a skill. So when you get to happiness as a skill, it gets totally intentional, you know? You get to understand, okay, there's a skill here that I don't know. I need to learn it, you know? It's like when I first came to this country, I didn't understand football. You know, coming from Nigeria, we play soccer. Now, we call it football because you use your leg to play it, okay? So when I came to this country and they're talking football, at first I was so excited. I said, hey, where is it taking place? Let's go and check it out. And then I get there, somebody is throwing ball with their hand, and I'm waiting for when they use leg to play it, and it never happened. And I'm like, okay, I need to reorientate myself really quickly. And then as I start to deal with people in the country, I start realizing if I don't have a clue about football, and football is the main staple, I don't have a clue about baseball, and baseball is the main staple, sport is the thing, I don't understand this game, then I am holding myself back from totally engaging in the culture. So now I'm going to date myself here, okay? So I had to go to the library and get a VCH, okay? You know, VCH, you remember those things? You know, oh, you don't know VCH? Okay. VCH used to be the way they record, you know, training, and the library store it. So you get a VCH and then you use a VC player to play it. So I went to borrow one from the library, and this was back in the 80s, okay? And I started to understand the fundamentals of football. You know, what are the rules? How is the game played? And then I went to baseball, and I understand the fundamentals, just so I can have a conversation with people that I come across. Otherwise, I'm going to be in my own world. Guess what? I had to acquire the skills. And if you can do that with football, you can do that with basketball, and you can do that with music, and you can do that. Why can't you do that with happiness? Why can't you identify the set of skills you need to learn so you can have control over your own happiness? So that's what the whole narrative about, moving from happiness as an emotion to happiness as a skills. Because there are a lot of people that have done wonderful research, a lot of stuff that can really help people increase their happiness and be in control of their happiness. It's just that people are not aware of it, and they are not focusing on it intentionally. And we have to do that.
Edwin, you documented some of this, right? Like, I think that people watching this might find it fascinating that you've actually been able to document and gather data on gratitude and happiness.
Absolutely. And one clear data, and this is, again, this is not just Happy Neighborhood Project. This is, you know, supported by other organizations that have done studies. It's like, if you just write down one thing you are thankful for every day. Now, if you can get it to 2 or 3, it gets even better. But if you can write one every day and you do it consistently over a 6-month period, you will raise your level of happiness by 10%. Now, let me put that in proper perspective. It's like going to work on Monday and your boss call you to decide, and you think they're going to fire you, and they say, no, you know, you have been doing wonderful. You are a major part of this. We just want to show our appreciation. And they give you an envelope that double your pay for the year, you know? Your happiness goes through the roof, okay? Now, the difference between happiness through gratitude and happiness through a pay raise is the pay raise is very temporary, you know? It might sustain you for like a month or 2, maybe 3, and then you are back to your default position. Whereas increasing your happiness through gratitude like that, it lasts for about 1 year. Okay, so that means you've got 1 year to reinforce yourself. So these are data. This is not, oh, Edwin feel good about it or not. And 10% increase in happiness, that's equivalent to someone who is having a mild depression, totally getting cured of that, you know? Go talk to your doctor, go talk to your counselor, go talk to whoever is working with you, and help them walk you through using gratitude to get happy, because it works.
That's powerful. That's really fascinating. So it makes me think of a couple big things here. One thing you talked about was how happiness isn't this emotion. It's something that's a skill that we have to work on. And I think it's a fascinating way that you put it. It makes me think of a friend of mine, and I'm going to use an analogy to like finding the perfect significant other. I have a friend of mine, and he's looking for the perfect partner to compliment him, and all these women that he's dating, he's just saying, oh, they're not this or he's not that. He's just thinking that eventually she's just going to show up and be perfect, and this is exactly like the person. And I think the reason why I'm sharing this analogy is it makes me think about happiness. It's like if we only think to ourselves, well, shoot, I'm only going to only be happy when it just somehow hits me randomly in periodic happenstance. But instead, what you're saying is we can take some actions to actually focus on us being happier, one of which is gratitude. I'd love to ask, I know I've done some research on you, Edwin. You mentioned that there are 10 habits that somebody can do to become happier and intentionally focus on that, to build that into their routine. What are those 10 things that people can do to start to become happier immediately?
So the very first is the decision. Now, you're going to hear a lot of time people say, oh, happiness is a choice, happiness is a choice. I have a whole different dialogue about that, okay? If somebody is currently depressed, okay, and they are struggling, don't go to them and say happiness is a choice. You might as well take a knife and shook it into their heart and let them just die, okay? That's not going to work, all right? So the first thing is the decision. Now, a lot of time people make decisions, but they just make it in the passing. What I'm encouraging people is, if you make a decision about your happiness, make it a priority, okay? So then it summon your energy, it summon your resources, it summon everything you have to make it happen. So that's number one. Number two is smile. Now I know some people say, well, smile, give me a break. Everybody knows that. But the truth is this: smile is a biological derivative. When you smile, it affects your brain cells. Okay, it sends a message to your brain how you want to be. So sometimes, even if you're not in the mood, and I do this to myself in the very beginning as I was practicing happiness, I go into a room and I start smiling to a mirror. And I smile as I smile, then I crack up and I start laughing at myself, And people say, Edwin, you're going crazy. I say, no. You need to talk to LeBron James. You need to talk to Esther Curry. You need to talk to any of these professionals. They do something in order to, to amp their game. And if you're going to raise your level of happiness, you not only have to be intentional, you have to be on purpose. So learn to smile and laugh at yourself. The second is the volunteer. You mentioned volunteer. I know when I first started interviewing people, and people will say, well, I don't volunteer because of me. I volunteer to help the organization, or I volunteer to help the individual. I this. And I'm like, that's all nice. But guess what? You are very careful where you select where you volunteer, okay? You volunteer where you are interested. You volunteer where you are passionate. Your volunteering is not random. So in other words, when you go out to help people, you're indirectly helping yourself. And there's a lot of study that supports this. When you go to volunteer for an organization, there's an equal amount of return that comes to you in terms of deep satisfaction. That deep satisfaction translates to your happiness. So that's, so volunteering does that. And then we already talked about, donation, number 4. Now, this is a very tricky one because people say, well, they don't really have money. I'm going to wait till when I have this bundle of money and I'll become philanthropist, okay? There is a study that was actually done, and they find a lot of successful people, okay, that are giving, were already giving before they became successful, and not the reverse. Okay, so if you are waiting to give after you are successful, the chances of you becoming successful is very slim. So it's almost like you're putting it backwards. So donate something, even if it's a dime, it doesn't matter. It's the act that actually counts. That's what reprogram your brain cells. That's what causes you to be happy, because you're doing something and you're doing it on purpose. You're doing it intentional. Okay. Number 5 will be make time for the 3 F's. Now, when I go to elementary school, where I go to teach happiness, I'm one of the few people in California that gets to teach without teaching credentials, right? So when I go in, I'm telling the kids that, hey, we're going to talk about the 3 F's. They say, oh, he's going to use the F word. I say, wait a second, they're also good F, okay? And then they go, what are those? We never hear about the good F's. I say, you hear about them, but you just don't pay attention to them, okay? So we talk about the family. we talk about your faith, we talk about your friends, and they say, oh yeah, those are all good F's, you know? So, but those three things are very crucial. Again, I think I mentioned in the beginning, I interview over 1,000 people. And I start to find out when you start gathering, you know, these people, you start to realize very quickly as human beings, we are social beings. And as social beings, we need our family, we need our friends, you know, we need our faith. So, you know, so that become a very crucial part. So that's number 5. Then number 6 is create a list of the things you are thankful for. And that's kind of like what we started with, the gratitude, you know. And one thing that I will say about gratitude, especially those of you that want to use the software, you want to download an app to do it, you know, don't copy and paste, okay? You know, don't take one thing you are thankful for today and just copy it so many times. You know, that's not going to work, okay? Because there are so many things around us that we can be thankful for, that there's so many things. The list is you cannot exhaust it. And especially when you start to focus on the little things, because the big things doesn't happen too often, but the little things happen every single time. So that's
well, I want to talk about gratitude there, Edwin, if you don't mind. I think there's a lot of power in being grateful for a lot of the simple things, because we can so easily overlook the things that are so impactful, like having shelter, having a roof over our house, or roof over our head, or having clothes to wear, having food to eat. I mean, these are things that I think a lot of people might take for granted, and we can be grateful for them. And I know it seems like the act of consciously thinking that I'm grateful for that might seem, I don't want to say superfluous, but it might seem like redundant, because we've become so accustomed to having these things in our life for our entire lives, for many of us at least. But the mere fact, the mere conscientiousness of that gratitude is what makes you happier. Is that kind of what you're saying, Edwin?
Absolutely. Again, you know, take oxygen, okay? You know, when we go out and we take a deep breath of oxygen, we never think about it. And none of us ever say, thank you, this beautiful oxygen that just came into my body. No. Now, unfortunately, somebody get COVID, and now you need some oxygen to a tank. Then all of a sudden, oxygen takes a different dimension, okay? And so the key thing is being conscious and being grateful. And one example I use is the key. You know, most of us that have a car, we have a key that automatically opens the key. How many of us ever stop to say thank you to that key? We don't, until you press the key and it did not work. And then it takes a whole different meaning, okay? You know, so we got to look at the very simple things in our life. And here is something that I learned over time. It's like, once you start to be thankful over little things, my grandma taught me this long time ago. He said, once you start to express gratitude over little things, it's almost like a universal order of things that bring more things to you that you can be thankful for, you know? So it's like it never get exhaustive. So because you used to, you know, you walk in, you see a flower, you say, man, that's a different flower. Wow, that's beautiful. And you go there and you take a deep breath and you say, man, this is so cool. I'm so thankful that I got to experience this. And then you move on, you know, to the next thing.
That's really fascinating. I think what I'm hearing from you, Edwin, is that, I mean, and I think the reason why this is really fascinating, because I think there's a lot of leaders, there's a lot of executives, there's a lot of professionals that are in this program that are probably watching this right now and are thinking like, okay, you know, I see a flower here, whatever, I see this or whatever. And they almost, I think a lot of people think about happiness and think about it as like being simple. Like, you know, somebody's simple because they're grateful or they're consciously aware of these little things. But what we don't realize is that those are the things, it's the little things that make us happy, and our ability to be grateful for them, which really has a powerful impact.
Absolutely. It's
almost like this power of finding joy in things that maybe previously didn't actually give us joy, didn't deter from our standard of living, but we almost, by not acknowledging them, are not necessarily choosing happiness, we're choosing stagnation. And then we wonder why we're not happy.
It's true. I mean, if you look at a lot of dramatic stories that you hear about, is when people get a close call, and then all of a sudden they become aware of the things they've taken for granted all their life. And then they promise they won't take it for granted anymore. You know, why do we have to wait for a close call for that to happen? Why can't we just be thankful about it? You know, let's go into the workplace, for example. you know, what does it take away from a boss, a CEO, or a human resource person, and he's passing an employee and tap on the employee on the shoulder and say, I just want to say thank you, you know, and then just move on, you know, and don't give any reason, nothing, just a quick thank you. And the person is like wondering, hey, what did I do? What have I done? No, it's accumulation of what you've done in the past, you know. It's just to say, I acknowledge you. I know that you are a vital part of this, you know, and just little things like that goes a long way. But again, we take it for granted because it's just the way we are. And so that, I think that is so crucial.
I find something that's so fascinating is what I'm hearing you say is that happiness, and you're changing the narrative, is so powerful, because if you rely on something outside of yourself for your happiness, you can't change it, right? Once you acknowledge it and are accountable for your happiness, that's a great thing, because it means that you are responsible and you can change it. When you think it's someone else, it means you're powerless. It's completely, you're giving it away to someone else.
Yes, that is so true, because eventually when it's all said and done, the only thing we can control is truly ourselves, okay? And even that is a challenge, okay? But at least we can. And the only way we can empower ourselves is taking that full responsibility. Because everything else is a contingency, okay? Even Garrett, the example you gave about somebody looking for a significant other, you know, if someone say, oh, if I find a significant other, I will be happy, that's a contingency that you are placing on your happiness. Because you don't know if that's going to be true or not, but then now you are putting your happiness on hold until you test that, okay? Or somebody might say, if I get that promotion, I will be really happy. You don't know that. But in the meantime, you're putting a contingency on your happiness until you get that promotion. So what I'm saying is, let's eliminate the contingency. Let's be happy now. And then here is what is so cool about that thinking, okay? When you are happy now, you have that magnetic that comes about. That's when you can attract that significant other that say, whoa, I like the way this person is, you know, I want to be around this person for the rest of my life, you know. So it's not a matter of you trying to change somebody or you trying to identify somebody. It's you exalting what you are, and what you are attract what you want. And that's one of the significant power of happiness. Because you never see anybody, even in the workplace or in the social gathering, you never see anybody say, you know what, I know that guy is not happy, but I can't wait to meet him. That doesn't work like that, you know? People just run away from you.
What I'd be curious to know is, well, I mean, there's a few things. Why is it so important to be happy in the workplace? And I guess two is, what about just taking time to identifying those things that we're grateful for? What about that really is what gives us that? I guess, what is that fine line between goal setting and happiness? Because I think a lot of people might hear this and they think to themselves like, well, you know, okay, it's great to be grateful for the things I do have, but if I want to push the envelope forward, if I really want to make some serious progress in my life, how can I do that if there's not a little bit of pain, if there's not a little bit of discomfort there?
Okay, so there's two topics you brought up, okay? So let's deal with the last one, and then we can go to why is it important to be happy at work, okay? This part you brought, that's one of the fascinating things to me. I mean, I'm so fascinated by it because once people get it, they truly just control their happiness, okay? So, and I remember a group, I think it was almost 500 plus people when I said this, and everybody just quiet, okay? I believe this, and my research supports it, that every human being has everything that they need to be happy already. You don't need a single thing more to be happy, okay? We already have everything we need, you know, and remember that I use the word need, not want, okay? But we have everything we need. Now, when I say that, does that mean, like you said, that we don't need a goal? No. What a goal does is it elevates you to another level, okay? But you have to learn to be content with where you are. So like, for example, you know, a guy called me about maybe the beginning of the year. It was before COVID. And this guy was overweight, seriously overweight, to the level of being obese, right? Overweight, seriously. And he said, Edwin, how can I be happy when I look in the mirror, all I see is obese guy that nobody want to talk to and this, and he just went on and on and on. I said, okay, time out. I said, how long have you been working on this? He said, for years. I said, do you know why? And he said, no. I said, because you have not accepted the complete package. Okay, you have to accept the complete package. You have to be able to look into the mirror and look at that guy and smile and say, you know what, you're pretty cool guy. I really like you. I mean, I love you, man. You are awesome, you know? Now, just because you accept that, that doesn't mean you shouldn't set a goal to lose a few pounds. They are not mutually exclusive. You know, losing a few pounds take you to another level. But guess what? If you are not accepting where you are, it's going to make it more difficult and more complicated. It doesn't matter what kind of personal trainer you have. It doesn't even matter what kind of food you eat. It doesn't even matter what kind of regimen you are in. Because you don't feel a sense of happiness inside of you, it makes it a lot difficult to share that weight that you need to share. But the moment...
Well, hold on a second. You made a really good point there that I want to, like, for anybody who's watching, rewind by about 45 seconds, because I think Edwin made a really golden point there. I think another way of putting it is, if we can trade our expectations for appreciation, we will be infinitely happier. And more or less what you're going with this is that we can still set a goal for what we'd like to achieve and what we like to be, but if we cannot be grateful or happy for the things that we've got right now, our ability to actually get to that next level is infinitely harder. So we can be happy for the things that we've got, grateful for the things that we've got, but also still uncomfortable with the sense that we want to be to that next level, because we cannot grow unless we're uncomfortable. That is the fine line, is we need to be grateful for the things we have while still being uncomfortable.
Yes. And another way to put it, that is totally awesome. The another way to put it is, you see some people, they say, well, you know, my goal is so big, you know, I can't be happy until I reach it. Guess what? The happiness is not going to automatically come with you, okay? You know, you're going to just be frustrated. You're going to be unhappy. You're going to be pursuing that goal. And then you reach the goal, and then you look back, and happiness is so far behind, you know, and you cannot just do a magic wand to say, okay, happiness, I have reached my goal now. Can you meet me here? It doesn't work. You have to go back to get the happiness. And that's what I don't want people to do. I want you to build whatever you are building on a foundation of happiness. So that way, happiness is what helps you to get there. And it's so much easier, because when you look at a workplace, for example, when you are happy, you are more creative. Okay, how do you accomplish that big goal if you are not creative? When you are happy, you are more resilient. How are you going to accomplish that big goal when you are not resilient? Okay, if you are happy, you are more productive overall. If you are happy, you are actually careful, you know, but it's not careful in the lazy way. You know, I've gone into a company when I do the culture of happiness in the workplace, and I can tell when they are struggling with their injury rate. You know, they are struggling. You know, every day or every week or every month there's injury at work. You can almost pin it down that it's a group of employees that are not happy to be there. You know, when people are happy, the level of injury at work goes down. You know, so accomplishing your big goal, you know, being happy doesn't take away from that. If anything, being happy helps you to accelerate towards that. But the bottom line is this: don't make your happiness a mobile thing. You know, don't make it a dress rehearsal that you can say, okay, I'm not happy now, but I have this big goal. Once I accomplish it, I will become happy. No, that's backward. You need to be happy first, and your happiness will help you to accomplish those goals.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That's fascinating. It does make a lot of sense. And so I think, kind of taking this full circle back to work and back to in our working relationships, what are the things that we can be grateful for? Maybe ask yourself this, those watching the Lunch and Learn right now. What are the things that you can be grateful for at work? Who are the people that are you grateful for to be working with? I know, Tori, I'm extremely grateful to be able to be working with you. And just that whole sentiment, that whole notion, that whole activity, that practice of just taking time for 5 minutes to think about who you're grateful for can make you 10% happier if you do it every single day in a 6-month period. That's insane to me. I mean, that is a sustainably effective way to become happier immediately and over the long term.
Absolutely.
That's a really good practice.
And the reason most people will not do it is number one, it doesn't cost anything. So we need to say, okay, hey, if you don't do this, we're going to charge you $100 every day. Guess what? More people will do it, okay? But it doesn't cost anything. And number two is they have not actually carried themselves to that place yet. And so that's where practice come into place. You know, I have what I call the 24-hour promise. And the whole concept of 24-hour promise is you wake up in the morning and you promise yourself that you're going to be happy for 24 hours. That's it. Not for the whole week, not for the whole month, because usually when you start to say long time like that, you can't do it, you know? And your brain has not fully wired itself to that point yet where it can carry you through. So 24 hours is easy. Now, guess what? Even when you say 24 hours, 6 hours into it, something terrible can happen, okay? And now, does that mean you just throw away the goal? No. You need to recognize that and have a little self-compassion to say, you know what? Damn, I couldn't even do 24 hours, but hey, I'm not going to beat on myself. I'm going to start where I am now. And then you move from there. The moment you complete 24 hours, you renew the contract for another 24 hours. So it's almost like taking baby step, you know, and then, but what you are really doing, and this is what's so fascinating, is you are reprogramming your brain cells, okay? You're reprogramming your brain cells to focus on happiness. And whatever we focus on grows. And that's really the essence of why.
That's awesome. Well, Edwin, this has been a great lunch and learn. Thank you so much for sharing your insight with our audience. I feel like this is a really fascinating topic and a really important topic to be talking about, because I think it's so easy to be angry or disappointed or frustrated at a lot of the things that we've got going on in our world. But if we can sit tight and think back on the things that we can be grateful for, we can be so much happier with the things that we do have. Thank you, Edwin. So
Absolutely.
Final question, Edwin, how can our audience learn more about you? How can they learn more about your work and the things that you do?
So they can go to happyneighborhoodproject.com. And so that's the website, happyneighborhoodproject.com will be one. I'm starting a podcast that actually kind of going into more details with this. And so they can also email me directly. I mean, I'm an open book, you know, so they can email Edwin. So that's EDWIN at hnpabc.com. So that's H for Harry, N for Nancy, P for Paul, abc.com. Yeah.
And Edwin, don't you have something every Friday at 11 PST and 2 p.m. Eastern time? Is there something you're doing? I had
Yes.
written that down.
Yes, so that is, back March 20th, we started doing online networking just to kind of help small businesses and middle-sized business take their mind away from COVID. And so it just kind of exploded. You know, we were doing one a week around March 20th. We are now hosting 50 of them every single week. And the highlight of the week is our worldwide event. And it's happening 11 a.m. Pacific. And that's 2 p.m. East Coast time. So again, if they go to happyneighborhoodproject.com and just click on networking, they have all the information.
So is it just you get together and everyone laughs, or and everyone tells what do you do? Like, what do you do? You're networking, but it's happiness, right? So what are you doing to?
And we've actually turned it into a science, okay? And just the feedback we get from people is just wonderful. People say, oh, I go to a lot of networking events, but I've never been to one like this. This is totally awesome. And so what we do is it starts on time, exactly at 11 a.m. or 2 p.m. Eastern, and it finishes at about 55 minutes after the hour. And during that period, we have 2 breakout sessions. Each session lasts for approximately about 20 minutes. And we average right now about 150 to 200 people that shows up, and we break them into groups of about 5 to 6 people. So you go into a breakout room with about 5 to 6 people, and each person gets 2 minutes to kind of learn about themselves. And at the end of that, you have time to ask questions. But in the very beginning, we tell people the focus is not you trying to sell each other. The focus is how can you collaborate? How can you help each other? And that really changes the whole dynamic. And then here is where you get excited. So after the first 20 minutes, they come back for our halftime show, okay? And during the halftime show, we take pictures, and you cannot believe the people who just come in time just for the picture, okay? And we make sure they have their makeup right, if the guys make sure their beard is clean and all this kind of stuff. And then we send them out to the second session, and this time they meet different group of people. And then when we're at 20 minutes, we come back. So yeah, we do that now. We do it all over the country, but the Friday is the main event.
I love it. It's awesome.
Edwin, thank you so much for being here. Everybody else, thank you so much for being here. This was an awesome Lunch and Learn. Have a wonderful rest of your day. See you, everybody.
Absolutely.
Happy.
Hey, thank you, Tori, for making this happen. And thank you, Garrett. You guys should stay safe and stay happy.